Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have reached at the top of the hour. Welcome to Dr. T's Philosphy Cafe. I am your host for this evening, Dr. Thomas Mallow-Hill, Dr. T. This is the place, if you are listening with us, we are live today. This is the place where we delve into the depths of thought, looking at explorations of complex ideas and engage in a lively discussion about maybe some of the fundamental questions that shape our existence. Again, as your host, I'd like to maybe take you on a passion, or I have a passion for unraveling some of the mysteries of the universe. I think I got a couple today. If you are on the call, you've reached the 19th day of September. We have approximately 11 days before this month is ended, and we are approaching the fourth quarter of this year. And for many of you who are members of the alignable.com platform, we want to welcome you as well. Got a few announcements today. I want to acknowledge some goings on that are happening, particularly on the 25th day of September. If you happen to be some of our female guests, our women guests, Alignable's networking days for empowering entrepreneurs, building relationships, and strengthening communities, Alignable is thrilled to unveil on the 25th of September. And it's designed to revolutionize how business owners connect, particularly women in general. So on Wednesday, Women's Networking Day, join like-minded business women from across North America for a day of meaningful connections. Strengthen your network, share your passions, and grow your business with fellow entrepreneurs who understand your journey. There's going to be 3 different events. You can register for one event or all 3 to foster relationships that lead to success. In the morning from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time, we're having the Women's Networking Day kickoff event that will be hosted by Randy Plinko and Brittany Sandoval. Then from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Daylight Time, with networking hour with Women of Influence. That will be hosted by Nadia Touch. Interesting. Please register for those 2. And then to cap off the afternoon, you're going to be listening to Unlock Meaningful Connections with Women of Alignable to grow your network locally and nationally. Again, Randy will be, who's the manager for partnerships and events at Alignable, and our own Brittany Sandoval, who's in charge of groups and events and program lead for Alignable, will be capping off that afternoon. A couple of things that you might want to expect if you join for one or all 3 in that particular day. This is your chance to connect with other female members and Alignable team members. It's an opportunity for you to strengthen your network, share insights, and learn from each other, all in one powerful day. There will be one-on-one networking sessions, engaged in breakout rooms, similar to what some of you may know as Smart Connects, to foster genuine connections across all industries. You want to be able to meet other women who share your passions, exchange ideas, and build lasting relationships. This is the place to be. And lastly, when you're empowering community, to be a part of a supportive and nurturing network of women who are dedicated to helping each other succeed in business and beyond, be a part of something special. This is for women, by women, about women. Please don't miss out on this empowering, fun-filled day. For those of you who are our audiences that reach into Canada, in October, there will be the Canadian Business Owners Networking Day. That date is to be determined. And in November, the Veterans Business Owners Networking Day. So again, these are upcoming events that when you register for those, please do so if you are on alignable. One other quick note, I can speak to it now since Chuck Casto, the head of our PR department and communications at Alignable, a couple of weeks ago, Chuck had an opportunity for myself as an ambassador, but also for the Naperville Alliance. There is a business to small business conference. It's really a big event for corporate folks who market to small business owners. It's being held in Lisle, Illinois on October 9th and 10th. And one thing that has been a big source of encouragement and has helped them out in the past, we've assembled here, I've helped to assemble a small panel of local small businesses. And these individuals, these small business owners forum, this small business owner forum, will be held at the end of day one on October the 9th. I will give you the names of those panelists next week. I will be honored to be able to host this on behalf of the Business to Small Business Conference. All the panelists who are attending will get a free ticket on October 9th to go to the conference and hobnob with major brands and all sorts of other small business influencers. There have been in the past over 300 large corporate businesses that have attended events like this through a partnership with Alignable, and we will be a part of those influencers to talk to them about matters that influence. Well, let me say it another way: the panel there to give small business influencers the chance to talk about what matters to them, aimed at an audience of heavy hitters from the corporate world. And I want to emphasize heavy hitters from the corporate world. This event is coming up October 9th and 10th. If it's possible that when we get more details, I can disclose this to you, but we are honored to be part of that. So two huge announcements that are being featured on Alignable: the Women's Day on September 25th, as well as this event on October 9th through the 10th, and the small business panel of which I will be a part of, as well as others, will be able to listen to those from the corporate world and these heavy hitters to determine what small businesses need. Our number is 714-816-4686. I'd like to let you know that the lines are open, but I wanted to make sure we got those two huge announcements for Alignable. This particular broadcast, which is sponsored in part by the Hope Foundation and through Blog Talk Radio, Optimize My Life is the name of this program. And again, as your host, Dr. T, the Philosphy Cafe, we're going to be delving today into some things that I found that was interesting. I've had friends and colleagues just as earlier as today say, well, Dr. Hill, I can't wait to be there. I'm excited. More people are listening to you. And so what are you going to talk about? And I truthfully said to the individual and to some others, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I know that this is a live show. Sometimes I come open-handed and open-minded to see what you, the audience, those who are calling in on. But I do have a particular a path that I want to travel down today as a matter of a little bit of metaphysics, a little bit of existentialism, a little bit of epistemology or epistemology and beyond, because I ran across three authors that I'd like to get your opinion on. And if you have either A, read any of their work, and I'll give you their names in a moment, I'd like you to keep your conversation there if you can. And if not, we will explore what's important to you on this platform. Again, I want to say, though, while this is a thought-provoking event and broadcast, we're not trying to be caught up in the issues or of the day. While there are many and they are varied, this is not an opportunity to extend our political views. It is an opportunity. This is not a podcast. This is a live broadcast. The number is 714-816-4686, and therefore, I cannot always predict what's on another human being's mind, because this is a philosophy cafe, and we are looking at the things in the depths of thought that hopefully will shape our existence. Someone might say, well, how can you not have something of current day not be effective? Well, when you ask a docent in a museum or a host on a show, we will try to keep it, or talk to a railroad engineer or conductor, we will try to keep it on track. I hear a couple of people in the background. Caller, go ahead. Identify yourself and tell us where you're calling from.
This is Nigel from Miami.
Could you speak up just a little bit here? I'm having a little difficulty.
This is Nigel from Miami.
Hey, Nigel from Miami. Nice to have you with us, sir.
Yes.
Is there anyone else? If not, Nigel, what's on your mind? I want to give you I want to start with these three authors and see if these resonate with you, Nigel, if you don't mind, or again with this particular thought in mind. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope we have your ticket punched and that your seat is in an upright position as we begin to take off. The authors that I'd like for you to think about are, in no particular order, Napoleon Hill, C.S. Lewis, and J.R.R. Tolkien. I would say in the last 100 years ago, these gentlemen were contemporary at some point within the last 150 years. So, Mr. Henry, pick one of the three or all three if you have read any of their works, and give us your thoughts.
I know I have read Napoleon Hill at some point, and I have some C.S. Lewis, but I don't think I've read any of them. And the last person was new. I hadn't heard of that person.
Yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien. All right. Let me enlighten you a little bit as I name some of their books, or contemporarily speaking, some of us have maybe seen their movies because many of their books have been turned into movies. I haven't seen the Napoleon Hill movie yet, but I'm sure there's something out in the works at the Napoleon Hill Foundation. But we know some of the seminal works like Think and Grow Rich and The Law of Success, How to Raise Your Own Salary. Those are some of the works from Napoleon Hill. But here is in, again, no particular order, C.S. Lewis. He has written the Chronicles of Narnia. He has written, let me go back, look at my little cheat sheet here. The Witch, oh my goodness, The Wardrobe, The Witch, and this is C.S. Lewis. I can't think of the name of it. I saw the movie, but I can't think of the name of the book now. But it'll come back to me. And J.R.R. Tolkien, his works, his literary works include The Lords of the Ring, The Fellowship of the Ring, all of those narratives, all of those kinds of works. And it was J.R.R. Tolkien who, in his writings, he and J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis actually share a common connection through which a mastermind, quote unquote, mastermind groups, both Tolkien and Lewis were members of a literary discussion group called the Inklings, which functioned as a mastermind between those two gentlemen. And many of you know that Napoleon Hill, on the other hand, popularized the concept of mastermind groups his writings about success. Your mind as the coordination of knowledge and effort of two or more people who work towards a definite purpose, emphasizing its importance in achieving personal and professional success. Hill's principles highlight how collaborative efforts can enhance individual potential in a concept that aligns with collaborative nature of the mastermind group, the Inklings. So these gentlemen were contemporary. So Nigel, J.R.R. Tolkien, all of the Fellowship of the Rings and some other works, C.S. Lewis, the Chronicles of Narnia, the Robe, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I think I said, if I didn't say that correctly, and those types of things. Anything ring a bell? And since you have a different perspective, because these gentlemen are from your country of origin, I thought you might shed a little bit of light on what Britons were thinking about maybe 125 years ago, literary speaking.
Now, I now in the works, like the movies. Oh yeah, Lord of the Rings. Those naming my even though I was born in England, I was actually raised in Jamaica.
Okay, well, we won't hold it against you either. We'll have to bring some Bob Marley and some other folks to the table next week.
Right, exactly. So I was more familiar with people in the first 10 years of my life. And when I got to England, they said, have you read the classics, of which C.S. Lewis, and now I realize this third author that you mentioned,
J.R.R.
Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and then when I came to America, I got involved in the personal development movement and thinking groups where you had to read. Now, the reason I'm telling you this background is because I didn't like reading at all. Reading was not my thing. And as a result, I failed English literature about 6 times. And because I didn't know any of these classics that you're supposed to have read. And I studied more engineering and thinking. So I did my own thinking. And lately I am reading these people. I'm interested in their works to see how it compares to my thinking. Okay. So that's how when you speak of them, I'm like, oh yes, I have them on the list to review to see how their philosophies compared to mine, because I had to create my own. That's basically what I'm saying. And
sure.
So then I'm thinking, okay, one of my thoughts is those guys led the way back in their era, and who are the modern versions of those people? And like one of my modern guys I would compare would be, who's the guy that wrote Outliers? Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, Malcolm Gladwell, yes.
Yes, I like reading his stuff, and because it's like he's doing the modern day thinking. And recently I have started looking at a lot of economic professors who are reviewing the foundations of economics and wealth and, those kind of things. Anything directly related to the production of wealth, whereas the authors you mentioned, especially Napoleon Hill, is looking at the human potential to produce success or fulfilling intentions. So if there's anyone that really compare myself with or examine, would be Napoleon Hill, because I'm in that industry now.
All right. Our number is 714-816-4686. If by some chance, and we make this a recording, and it will be a recorded, the recording will be made available for later on your drive home or when you're doing your daily chores. I want to kind of cheat a little bit, and people have asked, from Oprah to the guy or gal who does your hair or cuts your hair or your daily salon or wherever you frequent, the neighborhood barbershops types of things. Everybody has on their tongues or in their thought processes or including in their businesses the function of artificial intelligence. And not that I wanted to delve into this, but I bring that up because I resorted to that particular tool that I've heard some leaders talk about. And I posed a question in Perplexity AI to ask this question: how did Napoleon Hill's views on personal development differ from Tolkien's and Lewis's views on character growth? Now, again, all of this opportunity to delve into these depths of thoughts of these particular authors, I should have included, I can include maybe Ralph Waldo Emerson or some other pre-200 years ago types of people who are still influencing our writing or our thinking today. I'm sure they did with Napoleon because he references them from his day, in addition to Andrew Carnegie and the other industrialists of his day. But on this platform, thought-provoking dialogue, the answer came back: how did Napoleon Hill's views on personal development differ from Tolkien's and Lewis's views on character growth? Here's the response to that. Napoleon Hill's views on personal development differ significantly from J.R.R. Tolkien and Lewis's perspectives on character growth, primarily in their focus and their approach. For example, Napoleon Hill focused on success and mindset, where his philosophy centers on achieving success through a positive mindset, goal setting, self-belief. And he emphasizes the principles like definiteness of purpose, mastermind alliances, and the power of positive thinking to achieve personal and financial success. Give you an example. Tolkien and Lewis, on the other hand, focus on moral and spiritual growth. Both of these authors, Tolkien and Lewis, explore character growth through moral and spiritual journeys. Their works often reflect Christian themes, emphasizing virtues like courage, sacrifice, and redemption. The narrative and allegory, which is what I also want to take a different turn today to share with you. Character development is depicted through narrative arcs and fantasy settings, such as the moral struggles faced by characters in Tolkien's Middle-earth or in Lewis's Narnia. So again, some of us, I myself included, while I haven't read to our audience either of those books, because I have young children, or had young children, I thought the Chronicles of Narnia was a good deal, and Aslan, the huge lion, which also symbolizes British in addition to Jewish leadership, that symbol for Great Britain, didn't realize. And Middle-earth, obviously, I'm a fan of the Ring, the Fellowship of the Rings. In fact, I was just looking at the episode of The Power of the Rings, this new show that's on Prime Video. So, callers, I'll leave that open. Tolkien and Lewis, along with Hill, their approaches are different. Go ahead, Nigel, or whoever else is on. Go right ahead.
Brooklyn, New York.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Yeah, I've been on. The only book I read is Napoleon Hill, and you really that opened up my mind to things like that I would be capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the spiritual part about it, my dad was a minister, so as far as trying to do the right thing and that kind of stuff, that was instilled for me when I was a kid. And basically told us, hey, whatever you do, you be the best you can be. And when you want to accomplish something, if you're the best that you could be, you will outwork everybody. So when you outwork everybody, you will automatically come to the top. And because he wasn't experienced in business, nothing like that, Napoleon Hill really expanded my mind, took all the blinders off me. And when I got into business, I realized, I've had tremendous amount of mentors who, because of my work ethic, they extended themselves to me and to serve me along down the line. And it's now that I'm an old man, I can reflect back and be very thankful for all the blessings that have been bestowed upon me.
Okay.
And I try to pass it on.
Let me ask, and what stimulated part of this thought for me is I like to think that I'm well-read and I've been exposed to a lot, but for some reason, and I would keep from time to time over the years, would hear C.S. Lewis, did not associate Lewis's work with the Chronicles of Narnia or J.R.R. Tolkien other than the Lord of the Rings. Here is something that I won't say I've struggled with, but I try to make it top of mind for me. When you look at Tolkien and Lewis, and they're exploring moral and spiritual growth, where, again, both authors explore the character through moral and spiritual journeys, their works often reflected like on Christian themes, emphasizing virtues, again, like courage, sacrifice, redemption. But they used the allegory and then the imaginative exploration where they imagined worlds to explore deeper truths about human nature and morality, rather than focusing on material success like Hill did. I find that those who are believers or who look at their spiritual and moral growth not separate and apart from business, but I have found it intertwined in my own journey, which is why I wanted to bring this train of thought to the table today to say, here are three giants, literary giants, in our past, and they looked at things like, for example, what role does faith play in the works of these three authors? I'm going to explore that in a moment. Our telephone number is area code 714-816-4686. Interesting, Joe, that you mentioned, and if Nigel, if you were still on, I'm not sure, but how does faith play in your own individual, or those of others, Joe, since you mentioned your dad was a minister, but I asked the question about how did faith and the role of faith play in these gentlemen's work. And here's what before I open it up, here's what they said. Faith played a significant role in the works of Tolkien, Lewis, and Hill, albeit in different ways. I'll let you callers go ahead.
Go ahead, Nigel. When it comes to faith, my dad taught me that when people got together and they put their knowledge together and they were trying to build Tower of Babel, and they kept on building, and God said, no. He dispersed them.
Oh, okay, yeah, back in Genesis, yes. Okay.
Yeah, okay. You remember, we were all working together, and they found, I guess working together, I guess they thought there may be supreme that they could reach God, whatever it is. And he said, no. So what he did is he dispersed everybody where they spoke different tongues, different languages, and things like that. And when I convert that over to modern day, I consider like a mainstream, like the Mississippi is the main river, but you got all these rivers running into the Mississippi.
These different tributaries.
Yes, that's how I learned. I'm able to try to entertain all different faiths and things like that because we're all trying to get to the same place. And that's been one of my bedrocks. And I guess that's one reason why I can go wherever I go, I'm able to mix in. And being in New York in the Jewish community, and I was in minority, a black man in business, and the businesses that I was involved with are mostly Jewish. There were a number of Jewish people who took me under the wing and showed me the ropes. And I realized that the Jewish community, particularly, when they don't know something, they got an Uncle Jaime or Uncle Henry or Bernie that they could always go to get good information.
Well, let me interrupt you for a second, Joe, because here's what the question that I asked: how does the role of faith play in work of these particular gentlemen? Let me explain this. There were Christian themes that Tolkien referred to because Tolkien's works were deeply influenced by his Catholic faith, though he avoided direct allegory. His narratives reflect Christian virtues such as self-sacrifice, mercy, and providence. For instance, the struggle against evil in the book or the works called The Lord of the Rings mirrors the Christian battle between good and evil, with divine grace playing a crucial role in the triumph of good. Lewis, on the other hand, uses Christian allegory. Unlike Tolkien, Lewis used explicit Christian allegory in his works. The Chronicles of Narnia features Aslan as a Christ-like figure, directly embodying themes of redemption and resurrection. The moral lessons in Lewis's works, his stories often serve as moral and spiritual lessons, reflecting his Protestant beliefs and emphasizing the importance of faith and virtue. Now, the third party, Hill, his faith in success, Hill's concept of faith is more secular, focusing on belief in oneself and one's goals as essential to achieving success. His philosophy emphasizes the power of positive thinking and faith in one's abilities to manifest personal and financial success. While Tolkien and Lewis integrate faith as moral and spiritual foundations within their narratives, Hill uses faith as a motivational tool for personal development. I don't know about the audience, but I find this very enlightening for me personally, professionally, because not only have I seen the movies or understand a little bit of some of the works, and I've been delving a little bit deeper into C.S. Lewis personally, because I find, not that I consider myself Protestant, I know I'm not Catholic, Jewish, I'm far from that. I can't trace my tribe, but I do know who I am following, and I do know that the writings of a book we call the Bible, comprised of 39 books, we call them, of the Old Testament, and 27 in the New. I can pick that book up or any translation of it and decipher things for myself. Yet, these literary works between these three particular giants I found interesting philosophically because they approach the role of faith in their work. And again, now keep in mind, these giants got their success, kind of like what you mentioned a moment ago, Joe, but they resorted to a mastermind. Tolkien and Lewis called their mastermind group the Inklings. Napoleon, if you've read any of his work, particularly, and I want to get to this one, the works that Napoleon Hill had written a book back in 1938 for 70 years, was never published. That book was called Outwitting the Devil. And I purchased that book in 2010, thinking I had my hand on the hottest, work that Napoleon had did up to that time. And yet, I find that when someone mentioned that the screw tape letters that C.S. Lewis wrote were very close in nature to Outwitting the Devil, and I don't know if Hill read Lewis or if Lewis read Hill, I find those works were very similar. You can pick up those books today, Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis and Outwitting the Devil by those two particular authors give examples of faith. Go ahead, Joe or Nigel or caller, the next caller. Go right ahead.
No, I have nothing about that.
Go right ahead.
All I did was read Hill, Richard, and a lot of those principles. It opened up avenues of just broadened my vision. Like I said before, it broadened my vision, and because
go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
My dad had taught me the spiritual part of it, and it just all worked out. And
well, here's something that again I want to add. It's funny you use the word broadening and enlightening our callers, and again, that's what my show is trying to portend for our audience. That as you listen to this, to be thinking about, I wonder how these kinds of questions or these mysteries or other authors, if you would expand your library, go to your local library and pick up the book, The Screw Tape Letters, and or Outwitting the Devil. And here are some examples of those two books. It says both The Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis and Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill use allegorical narratives to explore things related to faith through which they approach these themes differently. The Screw Tape Letters uses a Christian allegory where that this work is kind of satirical, Christian apologetic novels that use series of letters from a senior demon, whose name is Screwtape, to his nephew Wormwood, a junior tempter. Through these letters, Lewis explores Christian themes such as temptation, sin, and redemption, and the narrative on faith and morality underscores the importance of faith in resisting temptation and emphasizes moral growth and spiritual vigilance as essential aspects of Christian life. On the other hand, when I bought this book, Outwitting the Devil, I talk about being enlightened, Joe and Nigel, and to our audience. Metaphor or metaphorical dialogue. Hill's book is structured as an interview between himself and the devil, serving as a metaphor for the internal struggles individuals face. It examines how fear, procrastination, and other negative traits can impede personal success. He goes on to talk about faith and personal development, that while not religious in a traditional sense, Hill's concept of faith involves belief in oneself and one's ability to overcome obstacles. He suggests that understanding and mastering one's fears can lead to personal freedom and success. And it says that both works use allegory to illustrate the power of faith. Lewis in a religious context, and Hill in terms of self-belief and overcoming internal barriers. Our telephone number is area code 714-816-4686. And if you happen to be listening, or we've got 20 minutes left in this particular show, on your way home or while you're at home working and you're thinking about the depth of this conversation today between authors J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, Napoleon Hill, and the latest two works that I did a comparison on, The Screw Tape Letters by Lewis, Outwitting the Devil I have read Hill's book, The Last Outwitting, over and over again. And remember, he wrote this book in 1937. You talk about the turmoil of their day. The country is in a deep depression. This is Hill. World War I has been over by a decade, a generation, 20 years, but is revving up from 1933 to 49 or 7 with the axis of evil between Japan, Germany, and Russia, doing an all-out assault on the European continent. Oh my goodness, I'm not comparing that one generation is worse than another, because I think it was Joe, you mentioned what must it have been like in Genesis chapter 6 when everybody spoke the same language, and Nimrod, the leader of his day, talk about dictators, got people to work together to build a tower so they could touch God. How arrogant must man be way back then, and down through these generations? Eons have come and gone. And we're thinking that today are dark days. If the world spins on until God says time out, what must the future look like if they don't learn from their past? 714-816-4686. So any comment on these three authors of what you've heard today? Anyone?
Well, all I can say is this, is that what man being arrogant is almost the same back in biblical days, particularly in this country. I'm not trying to get political, but in this country, with the you got a choice between people trying to work together and people trying to be a dictator and do things their way. And we're just at a big crossroads. And one of the things that's throwing a whole lot of chaos into what's going on is AI. There's so much artificial intelligence that's being promoted, and how I look at AI is just information has to be created. And if you create false information in the way that the internet is, it is spread so quickly. So here again, we've got the forces of good and evil. But I believe in the Bible, and I always believe that love or good trumps, or light trumps darkness.
Let me interrupt you, Joe, because I am using the same tool, artificial intelligence, to generate what I have been sharing the last half hour, because artificial intelligence is a tool. And I'm not trying to portend or project what others should do, say, or think, but I will say this. Fire is a tool. Electricity is a tool. I addressed an article that was presented on that subject in Alano, taking a poll about, what we think artificial intelligence is for, or what do we see it as. And for those of us, I guess I'm maybe in the camp with Napoleon Hill as a pragmatist, to say it's a tool. And I can use it for good or evil, electricity, atomic, nuclear energy, a hammer or a nail. I can use it as a tool, which I choose to. Just like literary license to write, when we think about how people, educators or students think. Let me give you a definition, and I'm reading here because I'm using another form of artificial intelligence called Google. And Google is not a dictionary. In my generation, we had dictionaries and Encyclopedia Britannica. But I'm using this dictionary from the Oxford definition of an allegory. And it's a noun that is a story, a poem, or a picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically from or a moral or a political one. The reader gets to choose, the audience gets to choose what they do with the word or the word choice. It's a noun. And to give a simple definition of allegory, listen to this, Joe, and to the audience. If you're riding home and somebody says, what is Dr. Hill talking about today? Allegories. Well, I'm going to come back to what our authors use. An allegory is and we teach this in school in English language arts. I've done it. An allegory is a literary device or an artistic form. An allegory is a narrative or a visual representation in which a character or a place or an event can be interpreted to represent a meaning with a moral or political significance. So, Joe, when you inject into the audience's thought that artificial intelligence being used as a political tool, that is correct, but it's the audience's and it's the listener, it's the hearer of that particular tool or narrative or art, for that matter, visual representation, as an allegory. So I used that definition to expand on the question that I asked Perplexity AI in these two works about Screw Tape Letters and Outwitting the Devil. I looked at the definition of the question when I asked how does C.S. Lewis's faith impact his writings were called apologetic writings. And little did I know that there was a group of people known as, well, we know that people who are atheists who do not believe in God, and C.S. Lewis was at one time an atheist until his conversion. Lewis uses Christian allegory. I just find that so fascinating that people who come to different points in their lives, and these gentlemen, Tolkien, Lewis, and Hill, have probably influenced millions, since their work has been distributed throughout the world. What these authors, as I started out, have in common, wow, they've created mastermind groups. What's to prevent any of you in the audience doing the same and coming together to, as you just pointed out, Joe, we represent, Joe, decade, at least 20-year differences, and there are those who are listening, decades upon decades upon decades, contemporarily speaking, different schools of thought. We label people as the great generation, baby boomers, generation X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All of these labels is a re-indoctrination of where to put people, because as educators, we are not really educating our populace of children. We are trying to program them. And 90% of most of us currently are the result of conditioning. Whatever your culture or your tribe, you've been conditioned to think of groups of people, particularly those who are neurodiverse, we call them today, talk about labels. And when we don't look to people as human beings, we happen to live in a country where democracy is its mainstay, and that's good that it's on trial. Because every form of government, be ye autocratic, dictator, a theocracy, a democracy, if people aren't free to express themselves in forums like this, on a radio broadcast, or in a podcast, or on ink, or through a computer, or blogs, or as we have done with the explosion of social media, people are saying and doing things we would never have thought would be appropriate. It is open for our children to see without filters even. So I appropriately named this show the Philosphy Cafe, to not go down any particular track, but to go down as many as we can unravel, and as many things that captivate our intellectual curiosity, that we have a free and lively discourse. And my job is to be its docent, to be its host, to make sure that people have thought-provoking dialogue and meaningful insights. That's my purpose being here, and hopefully what I'm bringing to the table today by introducing these authors. So,
Could I
go right ahead. Sounds like Mr. Henry, identify yourself.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Yes, Nigel. I realize I fit into. Well, I have been over the last 20 years. I've been developing a philosophy, and I would like, since I'm in the Philosphy Cafe, I'd just like to articulate it in a soundbite to see, because it links everything together. I think one of the questions that you asked earlier, which I wasn't able to respond to, was the link between faith and business, so to speak. You know, the contrast between C.S. Lewis and
Tolkien.
Napoleon Hill. So
Tolkien
I had a response, but I had distractions.
Well, please go right ahead.
So I think in engineering, and I basically see three realms, and for ease of visualization, I call it 5D, 4D, 3D, right? 5D, 4D, 3D. And 3D is everything we know as the manifested reality, objects, things. And 5D is the spiritual realm. 3D is finite, 5D is infinite, right? So what is 4D? 4D, I think, is the human temple, which is made of the mind, the body, and the emotions. And that temple is what takes the infinite and makes it finite. It's the transformation from spirit to reality. So that's what I do. So whenever I read any of these authors, I'm like, okay, where is their focus? Is it in the spiritual side, as in maybe C.S. Lewis and
Tolkien?
Or are they in Tolkien, or is it really in the 4D, which is using the mind as an imaginative tool that is taking spiritual energy and converting it into ideas for manifestation?
What Napoleon does is
Exactly. So Napoleon is closer to business. When they say success, I think he's drawing on the definition of success for the period, which was those barons, right?
Yeah.
Carnegie. And success is usually measured by literally, have you made a lot of money and do you have a massive influence on society? And so I think, was it Carnegie that sponsored Napoleon to
he
write?
gave him the seed. Yeah, he actually challenged him to do a 25-year study on
exactly.
Yes.
Well, he said, here's your study group, which is these masterminds, which are the billionaires of the time. So that's my link to that period. I'm like, okay, I think the principles of success could be translated into manifestation. What are you manifesting in the world? God is the source of all things, the infinite, and all things are possible. Now, whether you manifest good or evil, you've got a choice of how you use your mind. But basically, all things exist in the spiritual realm, and it manifests as experiences and objects in the physical realm. And the intermediate area is the human temple. And most people just focus on the mind, but they forgot that the body actually has a role to play in the manifestation process. So it's not just thought, it's thought plus action. And it's not just thought and action, it's thought, actions, and feelings. So I think Napoleon, or it's not Napoleon, there's another guy.
Lewis or Tolkien?
No, one of Napoleon's, the Unity guys. He's like, he wrote The Power of Intention or something like that. It's this guy, it's coming to me, but he was a very deep thinker, and he brought up the relationship that emotion has. If you hold a thought and with enough passion, emotion, then it manifests quicker. So anyway, thought, action, and emotion is the thing that transforms spirit into reality. So that's what I teach in my clients. I say, listen, God is the infinite, whatever name you call it, Jehovah, Allah, whatever the name is, it's still God. It doesn't care. And it is seeking to express through each person, and each person is configured differently depending on how their mind is programmed, their body is wired, and their emotional intelligence. And depending on how they are wired, we get a unique manifestation of value or expression of God in 3D. And each of us is here to manifest the glory of God in 3D in its unique and diverse way. And what most of the work, which is why I associate more with Napoleon, he's looking at one of the 4D components, which is how the mind can be wired. And that is wired using language. And language is words, and words is programming. And that's my software engineering background. You can program the mind. You can program the mind to limit, or you can program it to expand. And depending on the culture that you're raised in, I think the brother on the call talked about his dad, and my dad programmed me to think expansively, to think independently. But people have been programmed to think plantation, think limiting. Programming leads to thinking.
All right, we've got 2 minutes left, audience. Let me joke. Thank you for that rendition. You know what's interesting. People who have read. I think her name is Rhonda Burns, if I'm saying it right. But anyway, when she came out in 2005, actually it wasn't her, but a collaboration of like-minded people who burst on the scene and introduced us to Bob Proctor and Hicks, Abraham Hicks, and some of these other people when they came out with the Law of Attraction, the Secret, the movie, The Secret, the book, The Secret. And as people begin to think about the law of vibration, the law of compensation, the laws that, as you just alluded to, Nigel, Napoleon talks about, in the last remaining minutes before we call it a day, I think the conduit that I provided today is an expansion for those who are listening or choose to listen to go take a peek at these authors, to look at yourself, take a look in the mirror even, to ask yourself, we are on a relational medium platform, now that's social media platform on alignable.com, and ask yourselves, am I participating in probably the greatest journey while we may be all psychologically unemployable, meaning that because we decided to be our own boss, to go our own path, to go our own way, that there is a collective vibration that we can stay connected if we choose, disconnect if we choose. But this radio show has, and in my opinion, connecting people in ways maybe not thought possible, at least I could not have envisioned, and yet was encouraged by Mary Stanley. And I'll just make this public announcement. Robin Edelman, who referred me to Mary Stanley, in the last 48 hours has had a personal challenge. I won't go into anything in particular, but pray for the Edelman family. Pray for each other's families that we are able to overcome whatever challenges befall us. But that is part of the testing of our faith when it happens. And if you don't know that or believe it, go look at Job chapter 1 and perhaps Job chapter 2 to get a foundation. I appreciate you all. We're at the bottom of the hour. We will see you next week. Please all enjoy your weekend. Thank you for joining our call today.